8,
You're watching
7,
Experience Comic Culture and Sales.
5,
Streaming live daily to
4,
Facebook, YouTube,
3,
Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Hey, everybody. If you were expecting Mog and Mel, they're not here. They're off gallivanting in Chicago. This weekend is C2E2. That's where they are. But Mel did leave me this letter that he wrote himself for me to read to you guys. Dear SketchUp fans, this is Mel. Sorry, Mog and I can't be there tonight. We're in Chicago and looking forward to comparing all the deep dish places we can find, but we've asked one of our very, very best friends in the entire world to substitute host for us. He is the most intelligent guy we know, super talented, and is a real cutie. I swear to God, he wrote this. Please enjoy your night with Mr. Phillip, Ginn. Mog and I will be back next week. Until then, love, Mel. P.S. Stephen Yu is here too. I can't believe Mel and Mog entrusted the show to me and Stephen, and that can't be a good thing. But we'll make the most of it. Let's play the intro and we'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Again, I'm not Mog. I'm not Mel. I'm Phillip Ginn. I'm an artist, writer, creator. I am responsible for the picture book, The Stalker Snatch. I'm also the artist for Finale with writer Travis Corwin. And I'm an illustrator. You've probably seen my work at a con. I am here with Stephen Yu. Stephen Yu has trained in martial arts. He's done stunt work. He's done some competing. He's been a storyboard and concept artist in Los Angeles. He's been a designer and art teacher and has forever been an artist. These days, he spends his time illustrating and making comics. He's a pencil and inker for writer David Young's The Kraken, and he is the creator, writer, and artist of his own creator-owned series, Joan, but he's best known for wearing hats outside of the house to avoid a sunburn. Hi, Stephen. How are you? Oh, you're wearing a hat indoor as well.
I'm good, man.
Is the sun indoors as well? You know, it's
It is.
7 o'clock.
It is. The sun is indoors. Also, it's interesting. I also remember a note that was written by Mel saying that something about how Stephen Yu is like really amazing, talented, and such a great guy. There's something in there like that.
I remember that, but it was left
yeah.
in the Facebook chat, and he told us not to tell anyone. So you just
interesting.
broke like Mel's wishes.
Interesting. You know, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's almost like you made up everything that was written there.
I swear. Look, I swear to God, it's all printed out in text from my computer.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's written and typed out from your computer, it must be hand drafted.
I mean, we all know that I can't write. So.
Right. Okay. Well.
So we are going to draw tonight. By the way.
See you guys. Good night. That's the rest of the show. Bye.
We're going to draw tonight. Stephen and I have agreed to give each other prompts. These prompts are going to be things that we think the other person will hate to draw. So Stephen, since you're the guest, I'm going to let you go first. What am I supposed to be drawing tonight that I'm supposed to hate?
Okay. I want you to draw two people in love.
It's not something I hate, but I don't want to draw that.
Exactly. So there you go. Have fun with that.
Screw you.
Wait. And no cynicism. No sarcasm, like you're actually in love. Draw being in love. See? Got you.
Can I draw porn?
Can you draw porn?
Does that count? That's not really love, is it?
No.
Okay,
No.
well then I have your prompt.
Okay.
You, because I know you, and I know your views on commercialism.
Oh boy.
I want you to draw Elsa from Frozen, but you are not allowed to kung fu a fire. You need to draw a proper Disney princess. I want to see Stephen use Elsa as an actual Disney princess.
I mean, isn't that just copying someone else's drawing at that point?
You can stylize it any way you want. You're just not allowed to kung fu a fire. You need to make her look like an actual.
Are you saying kung fu a fire? Is that what you're saying?
Kung fu a fire.
Kung fu a fire?
No. What?
What?
Just
okay.
You can't make her look like a Disney princess.
Jesus. All right, fine.
How do I draw two people in love?
I don't know.
God damn it.
Exactly. See?
The more I think about this, I don't want to ask you any questions now. I just want to sit here and condemn you for making me do this.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
okay.
so Steven, since
Does
you're
Elsa have
here,
a last name, or is it just Elsa?
Elsa, Elsa, frozen Disney commodity.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
All right.
Good luck.
Yeah. Well,
If
good
you
luck
guys
to
have
you too,
questions,
friend.
if you guys have
Uh,
questions for Steven, put them in the comments. I'll do my best to check them out. But I have questions for Steven on my own. But first, I would like you to tell us a little bit about Joan.
okay. So, I'm leaving actually.
Leaving.
No, I'm here. I had to turn off the heater. Okay, so Joan. Joan is a medieval martial arts Western take on the history of Joan of Arc, on Joan of Arc herself. And the character is something out of a 80s, 90s action movie. And she talks like she's out of a Tarantino film. So that's kind of the short gist of it. The whole entire story of Joan has a lot to do with her being resurrected after she was murdered, burned alive by the English for heresy and rebellion. And she's sent back by God, and she's given immortality and infinite ammo to take down the self-righteous English monarch by the name of King Henry and his sorcerer dark lords by the name of the Burgundians. I messed that up, but anyway, it's kind of a hodgepodge duck press of all these things I grew up watching, everything from John Woo movies of like the 80s and 90s. To this day, by the way, as a little side note, is a lot of people consider Hard Boiled where he peaked. I honestly think he peaked at The Killer. And I think A Better Tomorrow was his like by far the best one. Anyway, yeah, Jackie Chan movies, stuff by Robert Rodriguez, Tony Scott, and definitely a lot of like manga and comics from that era as well. Do you want me to go further, or are we done with
That's
that?
up to you, man. We
Okay.
got 2 hours to kill. You can talk as much as you want.
No, I just, it was like I was working in LA for a while, and I just felt like, I needed to. I was just constantly working, doing like 12-hour days. I was either working as a production artist, or I was, storyboarding, but there was like no room for me to do what I wanted to do. And not to get too serious here, but like my dad had passed away in 2018, and that was a really rough time in my life. And then COVID happened in 2020, and it was just like things weren't working out, and it was just like, okay, which direction am I going to go? Should I keep doing this thing where like I feel like if I keep, plugging myself in the industry, that must mean that I'm being successful, or do I go this path of I'm gonna have to lean into like the things I really want to say? And yeah, so I moved back, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get a day job, um, still freelance, uh, but really take control of my life and take that time to hone in on Joan and use it to communicate the things that I wanted to say and feel. So that's the birth of Joan, and that's the reason why it was created.
And you've done some stunt work, right?
Yeah, I used to be a part of a martial arts group, and we would get together on the weekends and shoot movies. And then at one point, I got hired to be a day player on a film called Barrio Brawler. That was fun. Just got to work with friends. It was like a 1 minute fight scene, but it must have been there 4 days. And I remember it was fun because we shot in San Francisco, and there was this warehouse. I can't remember the name of the studio, but my friend brings me in and tells me to look at this giant I don't know what they call it, furnace. Yeah, like fire furnace, and it was the shape of a dragon, and it was I felt like it might have been like 10 feet tall or something. And he said, "Do you know who that belongs to?" I go, "Who?" He's like, "Nicolas Cage." And I was like, wow, I love that guy so much. And I was like, I can't believe I'm staring at something that was commissioned by Nick Cage. So anyway, there was that movie. Unlucky Stars was another one. Um, and yeah, most of it was like independent stuff after that, stuff that I had like co-directed. Um, I don't know. I thought I was going to go down that path, but I don't know. It's just comics, man. Comics is like my number one love.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because you obviously had at least an in you and your troupe produced indie films, or or at least short films, and you're making films,
Yeah.
whether whether indie or short or commercial. You had
Mhm.
it in there, and but you decided to turn Joan into a comic. And I know you love comics, but was Joan something that you didn't want to see as a film, or did you just gravitate towards comics because you prefer the form of storytelling for that particular story?
So I had an answer for that, and then you like said something, and then it made me go, "Well, that's a fucking oops, that's a goddamn cop out." If I use that, I can't swear. We can't swear, right? So anyway,
What do you have, 30 minutes or something?
yeah, we got that 30-minute mark. So just try to use clean words. Okay, so yeah, what happened was I wanted to be a filmmaker. I really wanted to, but the problem with film, and I'll give the spiritual reason and the practical reason, is the problem with film. I always felt was that it's too many uh it's too many cooks in the kitchen, and it like drives me nuts. I mean, just to like get what I want, I have to go like tell this person this is what I want, and then that person interprets what I'm saying, and then it's not quite what I want, and I don't know, that process is strange. It's almost the equivalent of like, instead of just grabbing the pencil, I have to ask you, Phil, give me the pencil that I want. And then you give me the pencil and you ask me, is this the pencil you want? I'm like, just give me the pencil, And then I can't just draw. Now I have to go get someone else to draw for me. And it's such a weird process. Um, and yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is pretty much what a lot of, people out there have said when they try to dive into films, but they end up in comics. Is like, you don't have that. It's not really 100% control. It's definitely more of a collaborative process, which is great. I love it for that. So if I was going to get involved in films, it'd be more like, I would be one of the collaborators in that. But ultimately, what it is comics is really where you get to turn the letters and the drawn image into a work of art, which I don't see anywhere else. I was thinking about Blade of the Immortal and how awesome
Yeah.
it was. It's like I remember the first volume that I read, and Manji has like one of his first kills, and I remember the earlier volumes having this cool, like, I don't know what you call it, but it's this crazy mandala looking
Yeah.
artwork,
Yeah.
right? It's like limbs are being severed in the middle of this macabre. It's like you have these cool like koi fish wrapped around the limbs in the background. And I was just like, oh, okay, like that's cool. He took a moment of this violent action sequence and he like beautified it. And I was like, you can't, that's impossible to do. I haven't found any adaptations of Blade and Immortal that do that. And I was like, that is what I really want to see more. But unfortunately, you can only get it in no, you can't get it anywhere else. You can only get it in comics, and that's why I turned to comics, because I'm like,
It's,
man,
it's,
that's
it's,
really
it's hard to get it in comic, or it's hard to get it outside comics. You can
yeah,
get it. It's just it can be jarring because comics are static. Animation, TV, film, they're not static.
yeah,
And so to switch from something that's scenic and then all of a sudden you have this mandala in the background
yeah,
and Manji's going in for a kill, that could be a little jarring.
yeah.
Wanted to take a quick sec. There's some comments in the stream, which is cool. Hi, Derek and Kenneth and Mike. And also, did you want to know Elsa's last name?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, tell me.
I can't say, I don't know how to pronounce this. Oh, thanks. I would much thank you for putting that up there. Now I don't have to actually read it. And also, Kenneth, thank you for the super kind comments. That's really cool of you. You can throw that up there too, JD. Um, so if you're going to collaborate, if you're going to collaborate with people, you'd rather it be less so because a film's usually got kind of a big crew. You'd rather collaborate with maybe one or two people on a comic. I know
Yeah,
Kraken, you were the penciler inker.
yeah,
You, David Young was the
yeah,
writer, and he did the letters, and then someone else colored your work. You're okay with that because at least
yeah,
you have control over your part of it. Mostly.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Also, like, I think too is when you know what your role is, like where you want to be. Like, for example, I have friends who are like, okay, I want to do this comic, and I'm like, okay, like, what are we doing? And it's like, I really want to write the story, and then someone goes, would you be okay? You just did the graphic design. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, that'd be great. And someone pencils and inks. It doesn't really matter. Or they hand me the comic. They're like, hey, can you write the script? Yeah, absolutely. Like, to me, I think that's awesome. We just have this like close knit group of friends and collaborators working together, and I think maybe that's why. Another thing too is like I think that's probably why comic books work so well for me is because it's just smaller. Like I thought I'd be like this big city, big personality kind of guy. I'm just not like that at all. So I prefer these like small, intimate relationships
Yeah,
with collaborators and stuff. I don't know. I find more meaning that way.
I get that. I actually prefer comics because I mean, for several reasons, but one, I can either do it myself or I can work with very, 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 very few people. And I
Yeah,
actually find that to be, um, when you work with large teams, it's collaborative, but it's a lot of gears, a lot
yeah,
of arms, a lot of
yeah,
joints.
yeah.
Whereas with a smaller team, it it's super collaborative, and
Right.
it also seems like the momentum is better when you're with a large team. The momentum seems slower, even though a
Yeah,
lot is getting done. You're just
yeah,
a small cog, but in comics, things are moving along because
yeah,
everyone's kind of doing their thing all the time.
yeah. I
Well,
mean,
except
I
for the
think that
writers who, once they're done, just kidding. I'm kidding, Travis. I'm kidding.
no, he's not. He's not kidding. He's serious, guys.
It's fine. Finale's over. Finale's done. We published it in December, and Travis did his part. I did my part, and it was great.
That's cool.
I'm giving writers a crap right now because of the thing that well, actually, a writer that I hope to be collaborating with this year. We kind of discussed this a little bit. I was joking before, but on a serious note, we were kind of talking about how comics is very weird because when you're doing indie stuff, and I prefer the indie scene, and I know that you do as well. When you're in the indie scene and you're an artist, you can actually, if you're taking jobs, you're charging for page rates, and if you are designing the characters and you can get half the ownership of a book and get paid, you're making money. And then the writers are really what they're doing is they're just spending a lot of money to promote themselves, and at some point the tables flip. So writers can get hired to do a lot of things, or they become known for their stories, and they get their stuff licensed, or they get hired for more things. They can take on multiple projects, whereas an artist, typically, unless you're John Romita Jr., typically you take on one project, maybe two, and so the money becomes more about the hustle. Whereas writing, because it's faster, you can take on more things, and it's so backwards in this craft, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I remember there was that controversy. Uh, Greg Capullo, is that his name? I remember he had posted something. I mean, I don't think it was just him. It was definitely like a whole bunch of comic book artists and writers going at it. But there was just definitely an argument about like, is a comic is the artist or the writer like who really has ultimately at the end the authorship of the story. And I mean I don't like see, and it's tough because um I love writer directors, I love artist writers, and
Yeah,
so the problem is that I could see it from a writer's point of view too as well. So I hate the polarizing view. I mean, I'm sure I have to pick a stance at some point, but at this point in my life, I don't know. I just I agree with what you're saying, and I also think that it is equally important because the writer to me is the person who came up with the story. If we were talking about the writer coming up with the story first, um,
Uh-huh.
and they're the person who's kind of overseeing the whole thing. It's like it's kind of like the auteurs, right? It's like they're not necessarily the cinematographer, they're not necessarily like the person shooting the film, but they have authorship in terms of like their whole entire production. So I don't know. That's tough for me to say.
Well, that actually begs a question that I'd like to ask you,
Uh-oh.
because writers are in comics anyway.
Okay.
Writers, let's say that they're the I don't want to liken them to another job, but let's say they lay down the blueprint, and then artists have to build the building.
Mhm.
I have my view on this. I'd like to know yours. What do you think is more important, story or storytelling?
You clarify that for me?
So there's an artist who I will not name. Great artist, and
Don Aguila?
hey Don, how's it going, Don?
Hey, what's up, dude? Hey, how's it going? Sorry.
Don is teaching a class tonight. Otherwise, we would have had him join us too. But so
Actually, we
teach
have
well.
beef, so that's why.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Well, I expect a street fight sometime soon, and I'm going to film the whole
Yes.
thing, and
Okay.
I'm gonna make tons of money. But you two will
Okay.
kill each other, so I'll have all the rights because you
Wow.
killed him.
So it's like the indigenous Taiwanese versus the indigenous Philippines.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, keep going.
that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. Okay.
So this person's view was that um, Star Wars is a great story
Okay.
in that you have a character who goes on this hero's journey and finds himself and goes through a rebellion and then saves the galaxy, at least for the first movie.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
the same person thinks that Up is not a good story, that all the good story takes place in the intro, and then the rest of it is just him in a house with a Boy Scout in the sky because of a bunch of balloons, and they land in the jungle.
Okay.
And my view is um, Star Wars can be distilled down into guy loses uncle and aunt, joins a rebellion, shoots a sphere in space, done. That's the gist of the story. It's more complex than that. And Up is guy loses wife, needs to move on with his life, relocates his house.
Okay.
But in the telling of Up, it takes you through a journey of this old man discovering companionship in the form of this little boy that he did not want around, and they have an adventure together in which they bond.
Mhm.
And the way that the story is told makes it a compelling movie. The story can be distilled into one sentence, a log line, if you will, and it could be more complex. You could turn it into a paragraph. But the reason why it's a great movie, both Star Wars and Up, is because it's told in a great way. Stephen King has this thing in one of his writing books where he retells the story of Hansel and Gretel, and it's basically a dad is widowed, has two kids, marries a bitch. They run away, find their way into a witch's house. Witch tries to eat them. They run away, kill the witch, and the dad gives the stepmom the boot. Done. That's Hansel and Gretel, but you can tell Hansel and Gretel in a much more fantastic, elaborate, eloquent way, and that's
Mhm.
storytelling. So I ask you, what's more important, story or storytelling?
Um. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I think it depends. Um. I think there's stories out there where it is very necessary to do storytelling, and I know a lot of people have argued that storytelling, over anything else is like way more important. Um, but I've also seen where story, concept, plot, it's almost as if like this whole thing was driven by it. and people are like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." But now that I think about it, a lot of times I feel like maybe it got away with just the story because the other things were really, really good. And that is maybe hard to gauge. Like there's no like way to there's no meter for okay, like how good all these other like qualities were. And so it's like the atmosphere was fine, or the atmosphere was great, and so therefore story's fine. Um Storytelling seems to be one of those things though. It's like a key ingredient because if you can relate to what's being told to you,
Mhm.
and it's like automatically you're hooked in. So ooh, that's a tough one. I would say storytelling, depending on the
Okay.
situation. So
Depending on the situation. Okay.
yeah.
I mean, there are plenty of films with. I mean, the story is just whatever, but it's told beautifully. Or
Right.
in terms of a lot of modern comedies, you wouldn't watch it if it wasn't funny. The story
Right.
sucks,
Right.
but it's funny as hell. So I put an emphasis on storytelling, but I think I know what you
Yeah.
mean. I think they go hand in hand. It's easier to tell. It's easier to have good storytelling if you like the story, for sure.
Yeah.
But you can take a crap story and tell it really well. Or you
Right.
can take a really, really, really simple story, man travels across the country, and that's it, and tell
Yeah.
that really well and have it be engaging.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I know I'm gonna be like hated by a lot of Jackie Chan fans out there, but I love Jackie Chan movies. But I watched Miracles last night. I was surprised because that was like one of those Jackie Chan films that and I've never seen before, and I finally did watch it a couple nights ago, and it had a really interesting story. I know it's like based on a lot of like old Hollywood classics, like two Hollywood classics. But and I could totally tell Jack was trying to go for like this epic um 1930s. It kind of felt like a musical, and it had a really engaging, I wouldn't say engaging, but a really good story. But the problem was the storytelling by the second act went all over the place. It was tonally jarring. It felt really disconnected from the first half of the film. The first half of the film was like a wonderful setup. It was Jackie played this character come into town. He's poor. It's like 1930s Shanghai or Hong Kong. I can't remember, but 1930s China, and he's just trying to find a job. And it's actually kind of funny. It's like in the beginning, he's looking for a job, and he goes up to this con man and who's trying to hire him. He says, "What can you do?" He says, "Kung fu and acrobatics." And then the guy says, "Well, those are useless. Can you be a cashier?" He goes, "Yeah, I can." And it turns out the job he gets doesn't exist. It's a scam. He paid his way into it, and then through some mix-up, he gets in the middle of some like gang shootout and becomes like the leader of this mob. And he's like, "What?" And the only reason why he like people wanted him as the leader is because he actually had good kung fu and good acrobatics. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool premise. But then like, and then also it was cool because uh, he keeps getting lucky because there's a woman who sells roses, and every time he has a rose, it gets him out of a situation. It was like really captivating. I was, oh, like anytime he could have gotten killed, could have gotten like horribly injured, this rose, whenever the woman gives him a rose, a new fresh rose, he's like it just saves the day for him. And I was like, oh, interesting. And then one moment he doesn't have the rose. I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? And it ended up being a really like tough situation for him to get out of. And I was like, oh, that's a great like first half of the film. And then by the second, it goes somewhere else. And I just thought, yeah, that's the problem is that the storytelling lost steam. So yeah, I think you're right. I think the storytelling it is really important.
I'll have to watch that. Well, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll watch the first half. We need to go to our first break. When we come back, we'll see how Steven is doing on our favorite princess.
She looks really Asian. She looks like a Hong Kong pop star from the 90s.
All right, fine. All right, we'll be back.
Twitch, it's not just what happens when you have too many energy drinks anymore. Check out our content over there, too.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you. Something is speaking to you.
Buy more comics.
Just at the edge of your perception.
Buy more comics.
Your senses fill with visions of vortices.
360 comics.
Slowly drawing you to one thundering epiphany.
360 comics!
360 comics!
The universe is telling you to shop with 360 Comics. Joe's got amazing stock from high dollar to $5 books from Silver Age to modern, CGC, variant covers, and more. 360 Comics every Wednesday at 9 Eastern, part of the experience.
We're back. I love that theme song.
Wow. Wow. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There you have it.
I do. I love it.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
I've never knew how much I loved feeling like I was in an elevator.
Yeah. How's that quality?
Sorry, whoever's choice that was, I apologize. I don't, but I do. This is comedy. This is how it works. All right. So we're here with Stephen Yu. He's the creator of Joan, and actually, you're in post-production of the second volume, correct?
Yeah, and I need to find a
Look at the
Bob Ross type feel. Wow. Okay. Well,
dang, I knew we should have drawn Happy Little Trees today. I had that vibe, and I totally screwed up. Damn it.
okay.
Yeah. When's that coming out? Or I know you're still in finishing it up, and I know you got some stuff coming up. But when are you planning to really step into the wild?
We're looking at July or August. I need to make a decision because there's a lot of moving parts right now. We're moving. So there's a marriage on the horizon.
Yes, congratulations again.
Thank you. So once I can figure out what these hard dates are, then yeah, I can make a decision. But I keep telling people to sign up for my newsletter at sydstudiopresents.com. you can get up to date information on what's happening with the book.
Cool. All right. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Wow. Anticlimactic.
I was about to speak and then you cut me off. You bastard. So I know that you probably get a lot of people coming up to you at whatever shows that you happen to be doing, whether they're big conventions or art festivals. You get artists and writers coming up to you asking where you get your ideas and maybe a little bit about your process, some of the techniques that you use. And I know that I definitely get this from people are working on maybe their first comic, or they're looking for ways to get a comic done, and they need to know how to get to the next step. So walk us through your process, if you will. Doesn't have to be like super in depth, or make it as in depth as you want, but how do you go from beginning to end? I know that you must have done quite a bit of research on Joan of Arc before you started it, and then from there, how did you go about writing it? Did you, for example, write a script, or did you just storyboard it all out? How did you go about putting your pages together?
Let me give you that what's that stock answer that a lot of these like Hollywood types do? Oh, it just happened, you know? No, I'm not gonna do that. It just happens, you know. We didn't know what we were doing, and then you know, which I don't know. I'm so jaded and cynical about it. I'm like, no, yeah, you had some ideas on where you wanted to go with it. So to be honest, I didn't know where the direction I wanted to go with it. Because honestly, what happened was, I was trying to get into the Art Directors Guild. I was trying to not intern. I was trying to get internship when I was there, and it didn't work out. And I was kind of like, okay, I do want to be an art director on a film one of these days. So I thought, okay, why don't I kind of do like the Ridley Scott thing where I make a movie like The Duelist, and I'm like, not only I could find someone who can write the script. It'd be like a short 10-minute, 5-10 minute movie. I find someone paid to do the script, and somebody can direct it. I'll just like art direct the whole thing, and so I started writing the script because I wanted to tackle this concept first. And the original idea was just like two knights scoring off against each other. But then I found out that like when you research for a story, it's like way harder than what you think it would be. So I was like, I don't have patience for this. I just want to make something cool. And so I just said, all right, one knight pulls out a sword, the other one charges, and then the knight who has a sword charges, and then the other knight just pulls out M16 and just rips this other person to pieces. And then I thought, oh, and then that person with the M16 would be Joan of Arc. And it just became this like joke that was just really bizarre. But I was like, no, I think there's something there. And I just kept pursuing it. And it turns out the first volume is really just that. It's just all style. I didn't really focus too much. I mean, there was a story there, but it was like, no, I just really wanted to focus on like this like template of what Joan would be. And then it's only now in the second book that it became more and more this. It has like a story. It has this like didactic philosophy behind it. And the second book is the template for how the story, what the narrative should be, all the way up until the fourth book. But I don't know. Volume one is like I always tell people, get volume one so you know what the mood, temperature, and texture is like of the world of Joan, and get volume two, because volume two you'll start to lock in into like the story, because it reads like, oh, it's like Kill Bill, and it's like, yeah, but then by volume two it's like, oh, this is like some like kind of, it's got its own like little narrative direction.
Yeah. Before we continue, we should probably show everybody what we're drawing.
Okay.
Oh, God, you're done already?
Well, no, I'm gonna watercolor, dude. Why are you
Okay.
judging? Stop judging.
Because I'm Chinese. That's what we do.
Right, right.
Come
That's why.
on, don't forget your heritage.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, I'm not done. I'm not even at the ink stage because I have to draw two people
That's right.
in love. I'm actually aping myself. I'm doing a sting.
Uh-huh. Hey, that's cool, man. I don't know why I got so loud. You know why I got loud? Because I'm. Can we swear now? Is that okay?
Because you're in love. That's why.
It's not because I'm. Well, yeah, but it's also because you know what? You draw these and take this compliment because you're an asshole when you don't take compliments. Take this compliment, all right? You draw these beautiful, whimsical things. You're like an amazing book illustrator. And don't be an asshole. Just take this compliment. That's it.
Thanks.
Oh, it got quiet because Phillip Ginn can't take compliments.
Shows about Stephen Yu, master at the loose brush ink work. You know, I looked at your. Speaking of which, I looked at. So I want. So if I have to take a compliment, then I have to give one back.
Okay.
So of course I did I did a little bit of research just to make sure that, like, you know, when I listed your credits, I wasn't wrong because I'm never wrong. But I looked at some of your portfolio work, and I want to let everyone know how well Stephen Yu can draw, and also how versatile Stephen Yu is, because I looked at your storyboards, and I like the way that you do stuff now. It's quite loose and interpretive, and it looks cool. But when you want to and when you need to, man, I've seen some stuff. I've seen some stuff that's super tight. I've seen some cartoony stuff in your storyboard work. I've seen some realistic stuff in your storyboard work, and not a lot of people see that from what you're doing these days. So I wanted to make sure that people knew that. Not that they should know this already, but Stephen Yu can draw really well, and you should go and look at his website. So somebody asked what we were drawing. So Stephen, what idiotic piece am I having you draw?
You're helping me draw Elsa in my style, but non-kung fu-ified. And I will watercolor paint this.
That is really good. And it does look like, you know, so if Disney hired you based on that, would you take a job?
Sure.
We'll pay you 100 grand this year.
Yeah. We'll pay you 1,000 Taiwanese dollars.
But you are only allowed to draw different iterations of Elsa.
Wow.
All right.
Okay. I just want to be
drawing. Hold on. I gotta tell them what you're making me draw. You're making me draw two people in love. I will.
So cool. I love it. I
will bust out my ink now. We'll see how well this goes.
I am forever a fan of the Yojimbo that you did. My lord, that is like my favorite fucking piece.
The piece
like
that I
F
aped off
word.
of Kurosawa.
What was that?
Like the piece that I aped off of a Kurosawa screenshot.
Dude, no, man. I know you were like saying this whole thing about how like, oh, it feels weird when I'm just like, you know, like aping like other people's stuff. No, it's like you're basically taking that cinematic shot, but you're doing it in your style.
I do like the piece, and Kurosawa is a great, as you know, a great person a great filmmaker to study composition.
Yeah,
absolutely. His compositions are great, and it's especially great because his movies are largely, except for like the last one or two, they were in black and white, which is great. Okay, so but we're here to talk about comics. So you left off and you decided that, I mean, you knew a little bit about Joan of Arc, but you didn't do a ton of research. You said you just wanted to. It started off as kind of a joke, and then you formulated a story around the joke, and now it's become something bigger than its intention, which is what I like, because I a lot of a lot of my stories, or the ones that I have planned and ones that I'm working on, and a lot of stories, they start off one way, and then you know the great ones, they veer off in a direction where you're like, I had no idea.
Mhm.
So now that you have a story and you had some stuff that you've drawn, which let's just call it some cosmic sketches, based off of what you wanted to do. Um, there's kind of a standard way of putting together art. If you're doing illustration or if you're doing comics, you know, you know, professionals will tell you that you start with thumbnails and you go through the thumbnail process and you iterate, and then you do the sketch stage, and then you go through the pencils, and then how did you put the first book together? What was your initial process in getting the art down on paper? Did you start with thumbnails, or did you just improv the entire thing?
No, yeah, I think the first chapter was definitely improv. I mean, it was a mixture of both. Like I would write this loose script and then go in there and just like, bash it out with like thumbnails and then turn to roughs and then finally clean drawings and then finally the inks. Um, the second chapter in that first book, that's when I was like, no, I gotta like actually like, hone this because I really wanted to get the action right. Um, so yeah, that's when I was really plotting it out. I actually way before doing any kind of art, I was heavily and I remember learning this from like architecture, is like they do that programming. So it was like a lot of just it was treatment, outline, page breakdown, panel breakdown, and then finally the script. Um, and then I go into thumbnails, and then I will go into rough draft, clean drawings, ink, and then color. So yeah, and you can kind of see the style changing from volume one, or sorry, from chapter one to chapter two, because by chapter, it just really depended on like where I was. So I volume one is weird because chapter one, I don't really know what style that was. Chapter two, I was looking at more Robert Valley stuff, and I
Mhm.
noticed he uses a lot of these heavy shadows. Um, and by volume two, actually, I was looking at a lot more of your work. I know we have more discussions. So on volume two, there's a lot more like
You said
organic.
my work?
Yeah, yeah,
No.
because you do a lot of traditional inks. I was like, okay, like I want to get back to doing that. So a lot of people think this is blasphemous, where they're like, oh, well, comics, you should have like the original inks. It's like, okay, but you can also do what you do in the traditional medium and just do it in the digital medium. So I didn't rely on any motion blur. I didn't like do anything. It was just like it was all done by drawing on the tablet. So I try to do this thing where like I try to um I actually don't draw very much digitally anymore. Um
Hmm.
but what I do in my head is I go, okay, if I'm doing this digitally, I want I basically want Photoshop to be my bitch. Like I want it to replicate how I do things physically. You know what I'm talking about.
So when you do things digitally, though,
Yeah.
are you trying to replicate something traditional, or are you trying to make it look as if this could only be achieved in Photoshop or on
No,
a computer?
I'm actually trying to, I mean, with the exception of gradient tools, I try to make the digital drawings now look more like ink. I see, I think there was this period, and I mean, it still exists, but I remember there was this period where everyone was doing digital stuff, and it was like this. I don't, was it like from 2007 to maybe like 2015? But there was a lot of people trying to look like Ashley Wood,
Yeah.
Phil Hill, who else? Kent Williams. Everyone was like trying to do that style, which is great. I love that style. That's like one of my earliest influences. But
I'm glad you referenced Phil Hill. That guy's a beast.
oh, he's awesome. But then what was funny was is that like everyone was trying to make if they were doing digital drawings, they would try to, really replicate that. And then it kind of went the opposite direction now, where everything is that really clean, painted, almost like trying to think of like examples, but that clean anime painted look. And I was like, that's fine, that's like one style, but like I kind of want to bring that 2007, 2012 era of digital illustration into my work,
Okay.
which is really trying to make it look like, it's like hand done.
So did you do the second volume mostly traditional?
No, I wanted to, but it was like, oh man, I would be at it forever. So I actually did it digitally.
Okay.
But I did it I did it through like, drawing and inking, like I was approaching it traditionally.
Okay. How do you decide since you did write a script for yourself?
Hmm.
Um, how do you do panel breakdowns in your script, or do you just do like a rough script for yourself to follow? Like for instance, when I write for myself, I write it. All I do is I break down by page. I don't do panel breakdowns for myself unless I want to do something very specific with the panels visually, and I know this ahead of time.
Okay.
But otherwise, for myself, I don't do panel breakdowns.
Okay.
Since you wrote your own script, did you do panel breakdowns? Did you do page breakdowns? And then how do you decide how your panelization is going to go? Because what I'm trying to do is leads you into this ultimate question, which is, do you think a page of comics or an entire comic should be readable without the words?
Oh man. Wow. Okay. Let me think about that second question. But the first question is, I do break down what I'm doing. But as far as panel descriptions, I know there's a lot of comic book writers. Um, they will say I try to include as much information as possible because I'm working with another artist. Um, for me, I don't know. I get lost in all that detail. If you're saying like Joe Smith comes in, he's going to, pick up this like bucket of paint, but then he looks at one of the brushes in this bucket, and then and then another person like walks in through the door. I'm like, already we have like 10,000 things going on inside this panel. Um, so I keep it easy. I like to focus on that one thing, and then if there are other things, then like I don't know, we put like a little bit of detail in it, but really the majority of detail should be in that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I write my scripts are more like, for example, if it's like, okay, if it requires two panels, like Joan punches a knight and then she roundhouses. I mean, that's one scene for me. So I want the emphasis on like the arm charging up, and then like the next panel is like the connection with the fist, and then the other panel is like the leg charging up, and then maybe that's the cliffhanger, and then the next page is a full spread of like the leg connecting to the head. um it's that manga influence where like I try to have that I try to tell the story within the action. And then your second question, which was, sorry, ask that second question again.
Do you think a comic should be readable without the words? When you're looking
Okay.
at so one of the big things about the old Marvel method is that you need to be able to read the page without the words.
Yeah. So recently I was listening to this interview, and there was, I can't remember the name of the comic book writer. I'm so bad with names, but he was saying how the words in the pictures actually exist in their own like space. Um, and I was like, oh, that's crazy. So I guess my answer to this is it really depends on what you're doing. Um, I remember in The Watchmen, there was like almost feels like a montage with uh God, my memory, the blue guy, Dr. Manhattan. Manhattan's kind of, I mean, he's really traversing time, in this like monologue. He's going from past to now, and if no words existed, you'd be like, I have no idea what's going on. But it's amazing because I don't know, you're still locked in. But you have no idea what's going on. Now, conversely, there are moments where a character is doing something, and it's like a sequence of events. I think what was it when Ozymandias, he's like there was like an assassin in the lobby room or something of his like corporate office, and he thwarts that assassination attack. That was done in sequence, and without words, you're like, oh, I know what's going on. So there's like two different like storytelling methods, and I guess it just really depends. I don't know, man. Like it's weird. I always feel like when we're talking about art, someone once said to me, the thing about graphic design and art is that it's a lot of theories, and it's hard to turn them into like exact laws. It's not like a science.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm always kind of floating towards like I like these things to be laws, so it's not like I'm just splashing red paint on the canvas. But I also like the fact that um, it's more theory because that means it invites exploration and experimentation.
Yeah. I ask because I'm interested in I'm interested in your thought process when you decide what to do, because like I said, one of the reasons why I'm asking a lot of these questions is because I'm hoping that anybody who watches this stream tonight, some of them I hope are the same people that come up to us at shows and ask us these types of questions when they look at our work. And I'm a big process guy. I like listening to what other people do. And a lot of times when we talk about comic book storytelling, it's very, I'm not saying it's 100%. I'm not hearing this 100%, but a lot of the time I hear it's very one way. Like, yeah, you got to make sure that this, you got to make sure that that. And it sounds very absolute when it's really not. I mean, there are concepts to follow, and there are rules that you can invent in certain scenarios. So I thought I'd ask that question. So you break down your panels to get the sequence that you want. Then you pencil and you ink. You digitally letter?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
When you lay out your page, are you laying out where the letters are going to go as well? Or do you just kind of basically leave room and then that's where the letters are going to go?
No, I definitely I plan it all out. I have to, because I mean there's some people who've done it where they just go like I just like figure it out as I go along. I'm not that kind of person. I have to design the strokes. I have to design the layout of the text. Again, that goes back to what I was saying earlier, was that comics is like really the only space that I've seen where words and pictures become one giant art piece. And to me, I have to do that, or else I don't know, or else I'm doing storyboards, and comics aren't storyboards. Despite how many people, and this phrase keeps going on over and over again, oh, comic books are just like storyboards for a movie. No, they're not. They're not at all. Then a novel is a screenplay, but it's not. So to me, it's always been like the letters are part of the artwork. I've seen comics where people do it afterwards. Hey, I mean, sometimes it works, but I've seen people where it was the word bubbles or the letters were like an afterthought, and then I look at it and I go, I can't tell what's going on. But I've seen people who are like meticulous about laying out their the lettering and the word bubbles, and I'm looking at like, oh, this is like really well thought out. This is like amazing.
I'm glad you said something about the storyboard thing. I was actually going to ask you about that because you've done storyboards.
Yeah.
I don't like the comparison between storyboards and comics just because they're sequential. The intention is different, and therefore the way that you approach them is different. But I did want to ask if you borrow anything from the discipline of storyboarding when you draw comics.
Yeah. It's definitely I don't know. Someone described it was funny. I was talking to Hope, and she was like, "Yeah, Jones is really cinematic." I was like, "That's like the 100th person that's like told me that officially as of like 2023 at the Art in the Park in South San Francisco. That was officially the 100th person that told me that." And I was trying to figure out like why it's cinematic, and I was like, is it the layout? Is it the way that I break down the panels, the way I tell stories? And I was like, I don't know. I guess what it is more like um I think
I have a guess. Did you come
yeah,
up with
go
an
ahead.
answer? Did you come up with an
No,
answer for yourself?
no, I still
I,
don't know what the answer
okay,
is.
I have a guess because well, there's two ways to look at a comic and explore and to view it as cinematic. When Frank Miller and kind of around the time his peers were using wide panels a lot, when we think of movies and we think of that cinematic experience, we think of widescreen, so that can be viewed as cinematic. But for Joan, you're not using necessarily numerous wide panels to get your stuff across. You're using a mix of various size panels and various lengths. I think that it appears as oh, excuse me. I think that John appears to be cinematic because it looks big on the page. The stuff
Mm,
that's happening, except for the small moments when people are talking and someone's striking a pose or when someone is delivering some exposition, those are
mm,
small moments. But then you get into the action parts and things are they for something that is a standard American comic book size, 6.875 by 10.5 or whatever it is. I don't know off the top of my head, or I don't remember off the top of my
yeah,
head, but it's something that's that size. I mean, this piece of paper is 9 by 12, so something
yeah,
that's just smaller than this to have action and shots that make if a character is really small but the shot is expansive, or to have like
yeah,
an explosion or have a fight look in your face on a page that is ultimately smaller than this piece of paper. I'm holding this
yeah.
up even though my that's what I think might be cinematic about it. Just everything seems big on the page.
Yeah. I think what it is too is like what I learned from storyboarding, and I'm glad you said that, is that I think what it is I learned beats.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which is weird because I always thought that I learned it from Hiroaki Samura's manga. Um, and I mean maybe that was like a portion of it, but I also learned too from like the way movie fight scenes are laid out. I mean, like, okay, one of the things in action is that you actually don't cut at the end of the movement. You cut during the movement. So when Jackie's about to throw a punch, it's like the hand is moving and then you cut. You don't go, the hand moves, hits the face, cut, go to a different angle. No, it looks choppy and looks slow. You actually go hand moving, cut, and then you cut to like another take, and then the hand connecting to the face. And it's just like it looks smooth. And that's one of the things I learned was that from panel to panel, you have to like lead the person's eyes. I also noticed too is that like letters versus no letters, it really determines the speed and flow of how you look at the panels. If you're reading text, it slows things down. When you're not, your eyes go like panel, 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 and then once it gets to a panel with text, you once again slow down. Um, some comics I've read, American comics, doesn't they don't really do a good job of that. That's just my opinion, of course. But I've seen comics where it's just like they're having dialogue while in the middle of like an action scene. I'm like, what? Like the whole thing's just dialogue. I remember the Wolverine comic. Was it Wolverine or X-Men Classics? Shoot, I'm like again, I'm horrible with like memorization, but I remember the old Frank Miller Wolverine stories where I think at the end where Wolverine fights Silver Samurai. I remember that was really cool. It was like well paced. There was like no dialogue during the fight scene, so you're going, oh shit, what's happening now? Oh shit, he broke his arm. Oh shit, like, you know, Wolverine's got like a sword going through him, you know, you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And I just remember at the end, the most badass fucking thing was Wolverine's fist going like this in front of Silver Samurai's face. And then it cuts to the last panel and it's just Wolverine's face. And then Snick appears on the panel. You're like, oh shit, he just did the killing blow. And it's just like, it was for the first time ever. It was like, I saw that. Oh, it's like the panels are doing action, or the panels are having the action. And then at the end, it's like the text that the whatever the sound effects ends this whole thing. And it like, you slow it down. And I don't know if Frank, you know, was inspired by manga. I mean, he read a lot of manga. He read Lone Wolf and Cub. I don't know if that's where he got it from. I don't know if it's purely a Japanese thing, but I don't see that in a lot of American comics. So, which is interesting. Sorry, real quick. Daredevil, the Man Without Fear. There is a fight scene where Daredevil's fighting, and it's just him talking the whole time. So I'm like, oh, it's interesting. Like he went from this particular fight scene that was just action driven, picture driven, and then this one fight scene where it's just like he has a whole bunch of dialogue. So I don't know if that's an editor thing or what. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'm going to assume that everything that Frank Miller does is intentional. I think
I like to think that.
Yeah, benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Yet, dialogue does seem to slow things down, but in the case of, I try not to personally. I try not to describe a comic as cinematic unless that is absolutely the best choice for it.
True.
I can see why Joan can be described as cinematic. Personally, that's not the first thing I thought. The first thing I thought was big. When I read Joan, the first thing I thought was big. It seemed very big. It was, I think we had an off-screen discussion about Joan, and I described Joan as kind of, you mentioned Ashley Wood earlier, which is, I think, apropos. Joan is kind of like an Ashley Wood, without aping him, an Ashley Wood type comic with the frenzied pacing of when Frank Miller parodies something. DK2, I thought, was a parody, and the pacing in that was not at all like Dark Knight Returns. It was completely different. It was ridiculous, and people didn't like it. When I read it, I was like, this is a complete parody. He's parodying manga, and he's parodying technology and the rise of social media and our reliance on it, and he's parodying all the digital stuff. He's kind of, in a way, he was parodying superheroes as well.
Interesting. I've never heard that take. That's interesting.
Oh, you never heard that?
No. Wow. Okay, that makes me want to read it now.
DK2 was I didn't read DK3, but DK2 was a huge parody, I thought, and I remember speaking to a comic book friend who does a lot of lettering and coloring. He hated it too, and I was like, dude, read it as a parody. Go back, read it again, and read it as if you're reading a parody, and I think you'll look at it in a completely different light. Let's see what you're drawing. We'll see what I'm drawing, and then we're going to take a quick break. God damn it, Steven.
That's cool. What?
Very cool. So that is Steve. That is Steven's version of Elsa from Frozen. I'm not going to even try to pronounce her last name. Bidding starts at 75 plus shipping. This is what I am doing. Steven prompted me with Two People in Love. But
oh, dude, that's cool.
That's so far.
That's cool.
Also $75 before shipping. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back, and the nonsense will resume.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Or fortunately.
What do you call the place on Spider-Man's wrists where the webs come out? His website. I hate myself for writing that joke, but you'd make me feel so much better if you just visited our website. We have links to our merch, new release lists, all the show info, and so much more. TheEXPLive.com.
To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise. A promise of adventure. A promise of excitement. A promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey. And behind every page, there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com today. Live from New York. What? Oh, sorry. Live from Cleveland? It's Friday night? It's Friday Night Live! With Nancy McCann. And Ricky. And sometimes Carlos. And featuring boxes and boxes of rare comics. Unique collectibles. Lots of smiles and conversations with new friends. Friday Night Live with Comics Unlimited. Friday night from 9 to 11 on The Experience.
Hi, welcome to the Bob Ross Hour with that lovely theme song. I love that theme song. Want to say a quick hi to Lorena, who just joined us. Hi, and Stevie B. Hi. If you're just joining us, doing a couple things. I am forcing Stephen Yu to draw his interpretation of, oh God, it's a cat.
Hi, Shinji. Everyone say hi to Shinji.
Why?
This is your favorite thing, Phil. Oh, Shinji's going crazy.
That's because you've picked up a cat. Cats don't want to be picked up.
That guy loves to be picked up. You don't know your breeds. That's the problem.
He's lying. I'm forcing Steve to draw his version of Elsa from Frozen, and he is forcing me to draw two people in love. We'll draw this. We'll show you right now where we're at. That's what Steven's got going on.
Oh, Elsa.
I wrote. You know, I've never seen that movie. I can't watch that movie because it's been overhyped, and I'm just not gonna watch it. I would rather look at your drawing of Elsa than another box packaged, thing on a balloon or whatever. This is two people in love.
Nice.
Steven's making me draw two people in love.
Nice. Nice.
All right, so it looks like Mike, $75 open bid on your piece, dude.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
And it's for his niece.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Now you got to make it extra pretty and princessy. Don't mess it up.
Don't mess it up. Don't screw it up.
Don't mess it up.
Hey, can we just talk about something? I want to kind of share a little bit about what we had talked about last night, which is that right there is the reason of my burnout. That dude, oh my God. I was like, there was a time in my life I remember I was like, I'm just going to draw. I'm going to draw, and I don't really care about anything. And then over time, it was like, I don't know if it was LA. I don't know if it's like my Asian father, just going like, "Don't screw it up. It doesn't look like what you want it to look like." And I'm like, oh my god, um, it's a little performance anxiety when it comes to drawing. I don't know if you ever feel that way. Do you feel that way?
Performance anxiety for drawing? No, my burnout comes in. My burnout just comes in the form of exhaustion and not wanting to be in a rut.
Yeah.
I hate being in a rut. It's not a good joke, but my joke for myself is I'm like a shark. I need to keep moving or I'll die.
I don't know why
Wait,
that's funny.
hold on.
That was
Stevie
very funny.
says, "Hi guys, since you're torturing each other, JD, you should join the fray and play the extended disco cut of the shows." I want, dude. If the theme song was a disco cut, I would be all over that. That would make
That'd be
me.
really cool. Wow.
I'd be into that.
But then, like every now and then, there's like things that you and I, Christy, or like Dave Law say to each other. So it's kind of like an electronica mix, like Mortal Kombat.
Peppered out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Peppered throughout. Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah. Like when Shang Tsung's like flawless victory, dun, 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 it'll be like that, but with this, whatever this theme song is.
And then
And then it's like you going like, I hate being in love,
I hate being.
I hate Disney.
I never said I hated being in love. I just hate love. My dark heart can't take it. Excuse me, guys. Don't mean to cough in everybody's ear. That's
Show's getting dark. Show's getting really, really dark.
Well, we got just under 45 minutes left. So kind of on that note, so you're putting out Joan and you're putting it out independently. And if you're just joining us, we've been talking a lot about Steven's process and some of the philosophies we have in crafting comics. We talked a little bit about this last night, and we don't make art in a vacuum. We make art, and then if we think it's shareable, we share it. We either go to a convention and we try to sell it, or we show it to a friend or partners. I don't have a partner, you do. Or we put it online or whatever. Not making art in a vacuum means that we get feedback from anywhere and everywhere, and there are all sorts of barometers. Any form of measurement can come in the feedback of your family, your friends, strangers, randos from online, publishers, both major publishers, indie publishers, and peers. You're putting your book out. What makes you think it's good? When you look at your book, what makes you think it's worth sharing? What makes you think that it's worth looking at? How is it good? How do you measure what's good? Because you're right. When don't mess it up. I don't want to share something unless I think it's worth sharing. But then, how do you develop that discerning eye, or the discerning sense of storytelling if you're reading a novel, discerning eye if you're looking at a piece of art, or a comic? And then if you're doing your dragon piece, I don't know if you people who turned in last time Stephen was on, he showed us his dragon piece. It's freaking phenomenal.
Oh, I took it down, but I work out and I'm always afraid of sweating on my art pieces. Yeah, this is the piece that Phil was talking about. That's the dragon right there.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. What?
Thanks.
But I'm not asking this. I'm asking this in all sincerity. What makes you think that's good?
Okay, so that sounds like one of those.
How do you know it's not crap? What makes you proud of it? What's the barometers that you choose? How do you develop that discerning accessibility?
So I know that you think about this. That's why you're asking it, because I think every artist thinks about that question a lot. Okay, so man, you're asking these questions, dude, that like I sweat. Like I pour sweat thinking about like every night, and my partner's like, just chill out. Everyone that ever has like known me in my life, they're like, dude, you're too in your brain, Okay, so at one point in my life, I remember asking myself that question, like, how dare you have the fucking audacity to label whether or not it's good. You're done. Like, how dare you? Okay. And then at some point, I thought about this. I really have to start empowering myself to make decisions. It was this quote, I think attributed to like Matisse. I can't remember, but I remember watching a video, and it was like um, something about human figures and how you draw them. Like, do you choose to make them abstract, or do you choose to go a super detailed, naturalist, realistic look to it? And then the quote ends with, "It's up to you. You're the artist." And I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, okay. I do get to make a decision on this. That's right." So there's a lot of barometers, right? It's like one of them is like you. Unfortunately, you compare yourself to your influences. You're like, okay, is that you know close to what they were trying to do? So that's one. Number two, is it close to what I envision in my head? So that's another one. And also, what am I really trying to get at? I think that's the biggest thing there. What am I ultimately trying to get at? And then there's also like, is it close to like the real thing that I'm trying to render? Um, so for me, what makes Joan good is that number one, it is what I know. It is what I know what's good, which is action. I know action stories. I've dissected RoboCop like 10 million times, and I've like read Fist of the North Star, and I was like, man, some of the stuff here is crazy, but the action, the drawings, all this stuff is really well done. And with Joan, it's like the barometer, the I guess the thing that tells me that it's good is, well, number one, what I'm really trying to get at, does it hit the goal? And number two, I also have an editor on it now. So I also get feedback from him. Robert Romeo is amazing. He's a great writer. He has done films. He's done production on shows. But he really loves to write. And every time he gives me feedback, it's like voluminous essays of where he thinks things are going great, where things are going wrong, what I can do and improve it. And I think that's one of the reasons why Volume 2, I really stand by it. It's because I have him. He was like really this sounding board that like I could listen to, because there's a lot of people out there right now, and I'm not gonna like get into anything super specific, but there's a lot of people right there right now where they're by themselves and they have these thoughts and they go, well, my thought makes sense, but they have nobody to talk to. There's nobody to bounce ideas off of. There's nobody to check what they're saying. So what ends up happening is that they're just saying it, and then their wall or their mirror or whatever says, yeah, I think you're right, and they go, yeah, of course I'm right, and then they walk around like that. But with Joan, it's like I didn't want to be like that. I wanted to actually start making a collaborative thing. We talked about collaboration earlier. So there's my view of what's good, and then there is Robert Romeo's feedback, and it's cool. It's like I'm listening, and I get to go like, oh, he's absolutely right. Like I wanted to just make the second volume action packed. I wanted to have drama too. And I remember in one of the parts of it, he said, he said, it's starting to get too easy for her. We really need her to have some huge obstacles. And I was like, you're absolutely right. So the second volume is like tough for her, but it's like there's a reason for that. It goes beyond the action. The action is almost like a decoration. Not that it's a byproduct of the story, but it's like the action has to also have drama. So when you have somebody that you trust to give you feedback, when you are able to stay objective, yeah, I think that's what determines whether or not it's good.
Do you show him various stages of your process? Like, do you show him the thumbnails before you move forward? Do you show him the pencils before you move forward?
Yeah, I worked with Robert on his book. Actually, it was one of my earlier gigs when I had moved to LA. it was for his comic Requiem for a Psychopath. And one of the things that Robert does is he's very, very meticulous. Um, and I just found out recently that I can't remember if he majored in it or he pursued it, but it was in electrical engineering. I was like, well, of course, you know, and that's not to take anything away from it. It's just like, I mean, the guy is thorough. And that's why I always liked reading his stories because it's just like the symbolism, um, the character development, it's all like there. And so when I worked on Requiem from Psychopath, I'm like, I could see myself working on this story. I just, it's like, it's this cool, like horror, noir, crime thriller. It has like kids in it, but it feels like I don't know, it almost feels like this, like, it's definitely a slasher story, but very, very well done. And so anyway, when he'll look at everything. He'll look at the thumbnails. He'll look at like the roughs. And with Joan, the difference now is just he's still seeing the art process, but he's also looking at the writing process too. I will send him everything. I have notes. I have concept art, and he does give me a lot of feedback on stuff. And it's like it's great. It's great to hear him out. He's not one of those people where he's like my way or the highway. It wouldn't
Mhm.
work like that. He's more like, okay, what do you really want me to do? And I'm like, okay, to be honest, I need someone that is able to give me an objective opinion about where I am. And he does exactly that. And he's definitely nice about it, but he's also very, very articulate. And when he's matter of fact, it just really helps out because I'm like, oh, yeah, I get it.
Okay.
But it's that working relationship. It's like a marriage. Um, it's like I don't know. It's just like things work out. It's just sometimes I'm a little chaotic, sometimes a little messy, and I don't know. I feel like he goes, "Yeah, okay, I can see where you're going." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So
Okay. Well, I have a couple follow-up questions, and then I want to get to this question by Mike Asbill, so I'll try not to forget. But
I
so
love that
that
tree.
oh, thanks. If there's anything that I can fake drawing kind of well, it's a tree. Um, so your editor is helping you with the comic overall. You're the one that sets the style, interpretation of your characters. Let's look at it from a visual point of view too. So let's say that you're getting good feedback on the story itself, that Joan as a whole is going to be a good comic. Your stuff decidedly does not look like a mainstream book, which I like. One of the reasons why I love indie comics is because I think there's more variation and diversity in the things that we get. Uh, so there's a couple things. One, what makes you think that you can draw well? And two, what makes you're putting this out to share? Do you care that the visual look of Joan is a little bit different than what a lot of people think comics should look like? And I want to qualify this question by saying that I commend anybody that's going to take the time to put together a comic and put it out. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of these comics, when you look at them, you see things like awkward figures, not very good structure, really bad lettering. And these people don't have someone to share their work with beforehand to edit these things and to fix these things. And they have to develop their own eye and be self-analytical. So how did you reach the point of self-analysis where you thought that the stuff that you were putting out was worthy of sharing? And you can, what's great about your work, I want to say this too, is that even though it's got a certain style to it, it's loose, the lines are thick and it's bold. It's kind of it's like half impressionistic, half abstract, but you can tell underneath all those figures there's an underlying knowledgeable structure of how a human body is constructed and how it works. But then you see comics where they're also trying to stylize it, but they don't have that structure. Now, as an artist, if you're doing fine art, maybe that doesn't matter. It's all about the expression, but these are comics, and
Yeah,
comics are representational. How do you
right.
develop the confidence and the self-analysis to be able to say, I can share this, I'm good at drawing?
So I was actually trying to. Oh, there it is. Okay. So we all artists have our practice, and we have to, because this is how we get sharp. This is how we're able to tell stories. Um, so first things first is I actually do draw and I paint, pretty realistically. That's bad lighting, but so that's one. I was doing a series of studies of like medieval era costumes. That's another one. God, the freaking lighting! Come on, dude, help me out here. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So like I said, Phil, I can't draw and render tightly. It's just, do I want to all the time? No. Like,
Yeah.
why? Why would I have to if I don't want to, right? Um, so what it is like I do study anatomy. I do understand form and shape. Yeah, we all have stuff that we need to work on, but like generally, I think I got to a place where I'm like, yeah, I understand form and shape enough. Um, and On my rough drafts, I actually do struggle because that is the place where I am struggling to figure out the right perspective. I'm trying to figure out the right form, anatomy. So my roughs are actually a little more tighter, but people don't see that. I mean, unless you sign up for my Patreon, patreon.com, Sid Studio Presents. Um, but anyway,
Nice.
outside of that, though, I mean, like, people don't get to see the structure, and once I have the building blocks down, the rough draft down, then yeah, when I go through it with ink, I don't know. To me, it's like, why would I want to repeat that process? Like, okay, look, I love Jim Lee's art. I absolutely love Jim Lee's art. I didn't realize how much I love his art. I know that people will be like, "Oh, that's a sellout." I'm like, no, actually, you know what? My whole childhood was inspired by Jim Lee. Like I totally forgot about that. Like I spent the majority of like my teens, and even like before my teens too, like just looking at his stuff and falling in love with it. Um, and maybe when I'm doing my roughs, there's a little bit of that Jim Lee in there, I guess, whatever. But when I get to the inking part, I don't want to do that again. That was exhausting. I only did that because I was trying to figure things out. But by the time I
Right.
get to the ink, I shouldn't have to repeat that process again. So I go a different direction. I go, you know what? It's time to get fun. It's time to have fun. If you're not having fun, then I feel like, okay, like there's really no point in doing it. And of course, I know someone's gonna be like, yeah, but like, what about the money and the? I'm just like, look, you get to decide where you want to have fun and where you don't want to have fun. For me, I struggled with the drawing part. Now I just want to have fun with the inking part. I get to say that. So, so there's that. Now, do I worry that in this comic book world there is this like way things should look? Yeah, sometimes I think we all have self doubt. We're like, oh, am I doing something right? But I don't know. At the same time, someone said this once. It was a friend of mine. He's a martial arts coach, uh, and he quoted. I remember like someone told him like, if would Bruce Lee and Muhammad Ali be where they're at if they constantly kept changing their stuff because someone demanded them to do so? And I was like, wow, that's really profound. Um, I mean, Bruce Lee's Bruce Lee. He is what he is because that's how he expresses himself. I remember, and I'm on a tangent here because I was like, I'm really into this topic. Like, I remember Bruce Lee was talking about how when he throws that punch, when he throws that kick, it's ultimately him expressing himself. That's the most creative way that he can express his like his thought process, his artistic soul. And I was like, that's what art should be. And you get better at the language. You should get better at that visual language so that you can express yourself better. I know there's been this like argument between whether or not stuff should go the way of abstract or stuff should go the way of like the more the Renaissance classical style. And to me, I'm like, I don't know. I feel like if you know structure, you know foundation, then yeah, you can choose whichever way you want to go. It's just, you know, um, I don't know. People have been like, you shouldn't compare art to like sports or exercise, but I'm like, but it does make sense though. It's like a lot of fighters are taught how to throw jab. I mean, like, when there's like these Cuban boxers when they're kids, and they are taught how to throw jabs and crosses in a very specific way, and they just sit there and they train that jab. Well, but the thing is that come fight day, they're going to express themselves in the way they best can. So that jab might be a gazelle punch. That jab might be like, I don't know, like a corkscrew. I don't know, but it's how they authentically express themselves.
Yeah, style. We we could do a whole other show on style. Uh, just looking at some of the past work on your site, I know that you will change finishing style to suit the project, and I understand that's what you're trying to do, and I know that in comics it's not really. Some people do it. I don't think it's done often, but I know that some people do it, and that's the kind of stuff that I like. And we can, like I said, that could be a show in and of itself. We do need to take one more break though, so I'm going to cut myself short. Steven, you want to show us your process? I'll show everyone what my process is so far, and then when we come back from the break, we're going to take a question from one of the viewers. So there's Steven's thing. Excuse me. And I'm about to apply some watercolor to this. Nice. So Steven's got a bid for 75 on his. And mine is still up for bid. This is Two People in Love. I'm about to watercolor it, also 75. We'll see what happens after the break. See ya.
What do you call the place on Spider-Man's wrists where the webs come out? His website. I hate myself for writing that joke, but you'd make me feel so much better if you just visited our website. We have links to our merch, new release lists, all the show info, and so much more. TheEXPLive.com.
So, the show is called The Geek Chat. And really, there's just a couple of geeks.
I'm Rich.
I'm Dez.
And we are your hosts for this weekly guide into comic bookery and all the geeky stuff that goes with it.
And that pretty much says it all. They talk about the latest movies and shows.
Okay, I'll be completely honest with you. Overall, D+ movie.
So the end. Did you know who that is?
That's She-Ra, yeah.
Yes.
The new #1 comics of the week.
We rep Samuel Jackson and we rep Mace Windu.
I passed on this. I was like...
No regrets.
No regrets. I really wanted to like this book. I really did. Like, I really did.
And just chat with each other. And with you.
Oh, Daniel says, I dosed off with the first one. I have zero interest in the Joker Harley ship, not Harley herself. Enjoy, not for me. Yeah, this movie's gonna be rough for me to sit through, I'll be honest.
The Geek Chat, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Just a couple of honest geeks.
Let's be honest. Come on.
And that is why people watch us, because we're honest.
Giving their honest opinions.
And the thing you always have to remember about the internet is everyone has an opinion, and they all suck.
Part of the experience.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.
Ooh, this.
Sorry, I was dancing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
We have a We have a question from Mike. I want the disco theme. I want the disco version. So someone's gotta work that up. I'm not gonna do it. We are here with Stephen Yu. You make any progress during the?
No, that's it. I'm done. I'm working on this Bruce Lee thing right now. I gotta finish inking it. Oh,
oh, you had a dragon. That's sweet.
yeah.
You draw good dragons, man.
I love dragons, man. I didn't realize how much fun they are to draw. They're just really fun to draw.
They are fun to draw.
Chinese dragons are so fun to draw.
I still need to draw mine for this year. I have not yet done it. I'm doing my birth animal a disservice.
What is your birth animal?
I am the tail end of a dragon. I was born after Chinese New Year. Sorry, I was born before Chinese New Year in 1977, so I'm a tail.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. In other words, Stephen, yes, I'm an ass.
Oh.
So, okay, real quick. Mike asked 2 questions. Do the high bidders contact the artist via email or link to fill out? So the experience will reach out and they'll put you in touch with the artists if you bid on a piece. Again, Stephen has an opening bid of $75 for his piece plus shipping. Mine is still up for bid, $75. It's 2 people in love. I'm watercoloring it now. Mike also asked another question that I'm going to pose to you. Putting out an independent book, what would you say is the most surprising thing on getting the end product out to everyone?
Sorry, the most surprising thing?
The most surprising thing on getting the end product out to everyone.
Sorry, I'm a little hard of hearing these days. The most pressing?
Surprising.
Surprising. Oh my lord. Okay. The thing that surprises me the most is how much you have to tailor what you're doing so that people understand. You have to tailor the description so that people know what you're doing. I just recently wrote a press kit, and I remember the way I had pitched Joan. God, we're on like 7 years now. So 7 years ago when I pitched Joan, it was a very different experience. Okay, so true story. Let me go into this. I feel bad. I feel like I'm putting this person on the spotlight. I was at a convention. Let's just put it that way. I was at a convention, and I had pitched Joan. Like I was just, introducing it to like a customer that walked up to my table. And everything I said, this person was like, oh, amazing. I even said the exact words at the time. This was my pitch. It's Joan of Arc if she was directed by John Woo and it was written by Quentin Tarantino. Okay. She went, oh, amazing. I was like, all right. Obviously, you know what you're getting yourself into when you know those 2 things. She bought it. She left. She said, thank you. And she disappeared. Okay. And then probably an hour in, she comes back, tears flowing down her face. And I went, uh-oh. And she said, I don't really read explicit content. So I'm going to give it back to you, but I'm not going to take your, I don't want the money back. You can give the book to somebody who wants it. And I went, oh. I didn't feel bad. I felt bad for her. I felt more confused. I'm not sure what was happening. And, Pulp Fiction is crazy, man. It's got like crazy violence. It's got, really like, it's Pulp Fiction. It's pulpy. It's based on like pulp novels, dime novels, It's got like, it's got that blaxploitation a little bit of in there. So, there's like, words being thrown around. And then there's like that scene, the sodomy scene, with Zed, and I'm like, when I say those words, you gotta know what you're getting yourself into. And John Woo movies, I mean, just the other day we're watching. Sorry, I'm like on a tangent, but I will get back to the point. We're watching a thing about Chow Yun Fat's career, and there's all these like clips from John Woo movies. Holy fuck, they're violent, and I can't believe I was watching that at such an early age. People are being ripped apart. I mean, it's like crazy, but it's cool looking. It can't deny that. So anyway, long story made short, I was like, I have to word it differently now so people know what it is I'm talking about. So I've pitched Joan differently now. I still mentioned that it's definitely very Tarantino esque, so you still know what you're getting yourself into. But I also mentioned some other stuff about Joan too. So that has been really surprising. It's like, wow, I don't know who's interpreting what, and that to me is not just with comics, with anything. It's just like I'll make something and someone sees something else, and I'm like, oh, this is like frustrating. So I mean, it's sometimes it's cool because it's like, oh, this is up for discussion. But sometimes it's just really frustrating because you're like, I don't know, I feel like somebody got triggered or read it wrong, and you're like, okay, I gotta like make sure my communication is effective. So long-winded answer, but hopefully you got the point. Thanks for asking.
Well, do you believe in putting a like a rating on your
Yeah.
stuff, or no? You do?
Yeah. Volume 1 has it. I say rated, and no, I say explicit content.
So I got to ask. That begs the question: was that rating on the book, the version that she got, or this person got?
Yes. Yeah, it's on all versions.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, it was like, what happened?
Right. All right then. Well, oh, that answers your question. Mike responds, I don't think average person realizes what it takes to get anything out to people, not putting average folks down, just more effort than is realized.
Yeah,
I
agree.
Do you that actually that's actually kind of an interesting thing to think about. Everything takes effort. Like I said earlier, I commend anyone that's willing to put themselves out there and, you know, put the time and money and effort into making a comic book. And we all know that not everything is good, and people have to learn what is good. A lot of it by doing, and some people just want to tell a story, and
Yeah.
and even if it doesn't look great or if it's not put together, they just want to tell a story and they're willing to invest their time and money into it. So I ask now, should this sounds like kind of an asshole question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Okay.
Do you think effort should be rewarded?
Oh God.
Participation trophy type things. And I'm not, again, not trying to put anybody down. Effort is, I appreciate effort. It takes effort to put out anything, but how much credit should we give effort before we say that this isn't very good?
I think anybody trying, I'm always rooting for them. I think if you're trying, like somebody had emailed me recently. It was like they wanted to talk about what it's like to be an independent creator, and I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I have an imposter syndrome. Most of us do, and I was kind of like, I don't know why you would reach out to me. I feel like you could reach out to anybody in the comic book world. I'm sure they'll give you a better advice than me, but he reached out to me, so I'm like, okay, I'll try my best to answer questions he has. But I feel like that's awesome that he's trying. He's really like, I really want to write comics. I really want to get into it. And I'm like, that's awesome. With that being said, I also feel like there is this need to improve the craft. When your technique gets better, you can communicate better. It's the same thing with language. If you up your vocabulary, I mean, I'm learning Mandarin right now. I mean, it's a good example. It's just like the effort I'm putting into learning Mandarin is, my mom said, it's really commendable. But at the same time, if it's just still gibberish, she's like, this is frustrating. I'm not gonna lie, this is like frustrating. My mom's pretty honest about that, But and my teacher's like pretty honest about it too. He's a nice dude, but he will say like, hey, let's fix this because it doesn't sound right. But I put forth the effort because I'm like, look, effort can only get me so far. So I think that's something that people have to consider if when they're trying. They can't just be like, oh, I'm trying, and then that's the end. No, like actually, like, okay, what are you trying to do? And like, you got to figure out your goal, how you want to get there, and then really like be objective and go like, is it where it wants to be? Look, man, like I know like I talked about there's this mix. I know I talked about the dark side of like being pressured to make things good, but at the same time, it does keep you honest. It does keep you humble because you can look in and go, is this good? Is this good? And if it's not, you will do a lot to improve it. So I think effort can be rewarded um, in terms of compliments, in terms of feedback, but just to have something that's subpar and have the expectation that everyone rewards you financially for what you're doing. I don't know. That doesn't sound right to me.
Right. Yeah, effort is great. I think that if you want to be good, you need to be willing to learn, and learning
Yeah.
learning is going to make you better. We have about 8 minutes left, and you said you were done with your piece, so you want to show everybody else one more time?
Yeah. Got the lighting.
Cool. All right, so I'm essentially done with mine. So this was a 2-hour sketch of two freaking people in love. God damn it, Steven. That's what it looks like.
Hey, I hope you're going to keep that.
Not if somebody buys it. They got 7 minutes. If nobody buys it, I'm taking it to a con. I'll sell it for $75. But this is two people in love, folks. I've never seen 500 Days of Summer. I don't know what those vibes are. I actually, it's on my website. I did a couple Valentine's Day cards in, I want to say, 2016 or 2018, and so I basically aped myself. This is my Valentine's Day card.
Seriously, hold on to it. Hold on to it. Don't do anything else with it.
You mean stop working on it?
No, I mean hold on to it. Don't throw it away. Don't do anything.
I'm not going to throw it away. God, I'm not going to throw it away. It's not that terrible.
Okay.
Two people in love. Oh, God. JD says it's adorable. I can see the same vibes, except it needs a boombox.
Oh, awesome! Even better.
Yeah.
Even better.
Maybe I'll draw a boombox somewhere on the floor somewhere.
That's cool.
But, yeah, two people in love.
Okay. Or you can draw a nuclear explosion in the background.
I thought about putting something stupid in the background, but I decided no. We're going to keep it good. So in the last 6 minutes, let's get out of the hard questions, and I'll ask you something fun.
Okay.
What's your go-to order at In-N-Out? Just kidding. What is your comics origin story? How did you get introduced to comics? What made you? How did you get introduced to comics, and what made you fall in love with comics? What was the thing that made you like, yeah, comics are cool, to comics are everything?
Okay. So first off, my love for comics is different from my love of comics when I was a kid. I think when I was a kid, I was definitely more of the hardcore, like, oh, Superman, Daredevil, But and I would buy stuff because of the title, because I thought the title was cool. But what ultimately made me fall in love with comics, which is like not very conventional, is Ashley Wood. And the reason why I say that is because I saw how he did his art books. I saw how he did World War Robots and Zombies versus Robots, and I went, "This is so strange," and I love strange. So his stuff is really what made me fall in love with the medium.
Okay. And when did you decide you wanted to draw comics?
I think what made me realize it was after I shot a short film, I went, yeah, I'm not into this. I don't like sitting here and waiting. It's not me. And whenever I remember I was shooting with these stunt guys on a movie, and then while I was waiting, I just sat there and doodled. And I'm like, I have more fun doing this than waiting to throw a kick.
I have well, there's a couple comments first. Stevie B says I should add a red cape to the guide to appeal to the superhero crowd. Not going to do that. but good suggestion. And some ink bled, so now I got to figure out how to fix that. I'll just ink it. I'll just ink in a larger shoulder.
Nice.
This, by the way, in the remaining time that we have, when people see that I ink with real ink, they're always like, "How do you do that? It's so permanent." And like you build confidence and you learn how to do it. And so I hatched some stuff under this guy's head to create shadow, but the paint wasn't completely dry, so there was a little bit of bleeding. So you know how to fix that? Well, I can't white it out because it's going to change the wash on the backs, but I can. It's a loose sketch, so I can redraw his shoulder.
Hey, are you inspired by Bill Watterson? Is that one of your influences? Okay.
I am. I'm inspired by a lot of folks. I think in comics specifically, Frank Miller, Hideki Samura, Bill Watterson, Jeff Smith were really big around the same, because I read all those comics around the same time. I read Dark Knight Returns and Bone, and I discovered Blade of the Immortal, and I was reading Calvin and Hobbes around the same time. Calvin and Hobbes being a comic strip, in my brain was kind of separated. I grew up wanting to be a comic strip artist. I didn't want to be a comic book artist. I wanted to do comic strips. I drew them all the time. And then my friend in when I was in middle school, one of my friends in the neighborhood started collecting comics, and I started reading his. Then the Batman movie came out, Tim Burton's first Batman movie. And then I started reading my dad's comics, and I fell in love with comics. But the thing that made me switch over were a couple things. Norm Brayfogle was drawing Batman like nobody I had ever seen before at the time. Mm-hmm. We were used to the classic Jim Aparo, Dick Giordano, Neil Adams Batman, and I saw Norm Brayfogle stuff, and I was like, this is freaking awesome. Right. And then I read Dark Knight Returns, of course, and Bone and Blade of the Immortal, and I started to develop my own ideas about how comics could be done just based off of what I was learning. And Bill Watterson is an influence in terms of his brushwork and his concise storytelling and his imagination. And also he's a really big influence in that I think that the work is the thing. And it sucks that there's a quick story about how Charles Schultz didn't really criticize Watterson, but he didn't understand Watterson's decision to not license his work because cartooning is a business. And I love the fact that Watterson wanted to keep it strict pure, and it's really hard to do these days if you want to not do anything else except make art. Right. So, how much time do we have left? I know it's 9 o'clock.
Oh, is it 9? Oh shit, it is 9.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I'll keep talking until JD stops me.
Okay.
I'll also keep drinking until I run out of whiskey.
That sounds like a song. Yeah. That sounds like a title of a graphic novel you should make next.
I'll keep drinking until I run out of whiskey. That would be a great.
We're doing that. Stories in my head anyway. Already. You can stop at a time. You've done your community service hours, so you're good.
Oh, awesome! So that's 2 hours off my prison time. Wait, Steven, we're gonna do. I'll stop drinking when I run out of whiskey. We're doing that together.
Okay, I'm down for it. You let me know.
It's on air. It's going to be immortalized on YouTube.
Wow.
So it's a YouTube verbal contract? Question mark.
Okay. All right. Well,
All right.
in the words of Vasquez from Aliens, I just want to know. I just have one question. When?
Soon.
Okay.
I can't give you any other answer than that, but it's going to happen. Okay. It has to happen because the title is out there. I'm not wasting that title.
That's a good title. It's an amazing title. I love that title.
Well, it's a good thing I'm drinking whiskey. I think we should probably go. Steven, really quick, are you doing any shows coming up?
Yes. So I am. Well, first off, it's not really a show. It's a comic book reading I'm doing on Saturday at the South San Francisco Public Library, and it goes from 2:30 to I can't remember when. And me and fellow comic book illustrators, creators like Abby Rocha, I think Samiko Solson, we're all going to be there. There's a lot of us, and we'll be reading our comics on like a projector. So Joan will be there. And then May 4th, I will be at King Kong Comics in Dublin. Tabling there. Yay! Friends!
Yeah.
Love when our friends are there.
And Dave Law. Dave Law.
Never mind. I don't want to
go. That's gonna be fun. Anything else?
Yeah, and then there will be Silver Age Comics happening in Reno in July. Art of the Bay. Oh, Asian Invasion! We got Asian Invasion happening September 21st.
Tentatively 21st, 22nd. Yeah.
What is this tentatively? I thought we got it locked in.
Okay, it's on the plate, but we haven't announced it yet till just now.
Okay. Well, dude, should have told me. You know what? I'm not saying anymore. Yeah. And then there's a couple more shows, but really, we're taking a break because I got a honeymoon going on. I'm going to Taiwan in December, so I will recalibrate when I come back.
Okay, so while Steven comes back with babies, I'm going to be at the King Kong thing as well on the 4th. I'm doing Lodi Comic Con on the 11th, and I will be doing Comic Con Revolution 18th and 19th of May. That is it for our show. Thank you to Mog and Mel for letting us ruin their show. I'm sure we'll be back. You'll see us, and keep an eye out for our work. Thanks, Steven, for everything, and we'll see you all later.
Thanks,
bye.
Peace.
In a world where you hit like and subscribe on our YouTube channel,
that'd be really great. Thanks.